topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Houston. Sometimes I got to think about what city are we in today, but we are in the beautiful city of Houston. Today's show is brought to you by Autumn Oak Speech, Voice, and Hearing. They're located in Friendswood. Call their office at 281-816-3110. Make the appointment with them. Today's show, I got two great experts today, and this is the day of the month that I look forward to for Houston, because my first guest, we've actually become friends, through the Lord. We've both gone through illness, and I'm so pleased. We are so blessed to have our first expert. She can't call herself that, but I sure can. Let me introduce you to the managing attorney at the Dean Law Firm in Sugar Land, Texas. She's the owner of Dean Law Firm, where they handle estate planning. She's got a boutique. And even though they're in Sugar Land, you can reach her from anywhere in South Texas. Let me welcome my friend, attorney Julia Dean.
Thank you, Stephen.
Hi, Julia.
Hi, great to see you.
Well, my phones are already ringing with today's show already, which is really nice. And people will have to realize that they can actually write us on the show through our chat line. And I'm going to fix this right now so we do not get disturbed. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 phone calls are ready.
Wonderful.
And all with questions. You know what? I'm just looking at a few. I'm just looking at a few of these. And the first three said, why are you only doing this for 30 minutes? It should be longer.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay. I appreciate that.
And Julia's with us. You're with us twice a month.
I am.
But let's first talk about your law firm, because I don't even recognize any of the people who are calling. So we have a lot of new viewers and listeners. Tell everybody about Attorney Julia Dean and the Dean Law Firm.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Well, we're an estate planning, probate, special needs, and guardianship boutique. So our primary emphasis is estate planning, but all those other areas intersect with it. And it is my passion to really help people proactively take care of their estate plans and sure we're avoiding court as much as possible. So I love meeting with people and just having a chance to get to know you better. So I have a wide variety of from litigation to family law, personal injury, and other things that really help me to proactively plan even better. And so when I went out on my own about 16 years ago, I thought, what would I really want to do that can really help people? Because that was my heart. It wasn't to be in the courtroom or doing litigation anymore. And so that's when I came really settled in on estate planning, probate, guardianship, elder law, to really help our community and to educate them on what is so important in taking care of their own estate plan.
I had, after your last show, I had two people to write us. And the question was, what is elder law?
That's a great question. So elder law, generally, when we think about that, it encompasses a couple different areas. One is long-term care planning for yourself, disability planning, Most people think of it, and that part of it is Medicaid planning. If we needed long-term care and we don't have our own insurance and we can't self-fund it, well, then we apply for Medicaid to be in a nursing home scenario to help us with those costs. So oftentimes that's what you're thinking, but it also really does encompass the special needs area. So that's why I usually say it separately, because that can range anywhere from our youngest to our eldest, needing special needs. But at a certain point in time, there's less we can do if we're under 65, there's under 65, where there's more we can do. Where if we're older than 65, then we have different options and different elder care, long-term care options.
And gosh, long-term care has become so expensive. And the longer you let it go, the more expensive it's going to get. But I do want to ask you, Joe, there's so many people today that are concerned about protecting their assets, probably more than ever. So with all the lawsuits and uncertainty, you find more people are coming in to discuss with you how to protect their assets than ever before?
I do. Actually, it's growing in the interest that I'm seeing on asset protection. And it's not just the people we would think that are, we consider wealthy. It's someone who's worked all their life and they finally have something set aside. And they don't want to lose that. I mean, they've worked and now they may not be able to go back and work, and they want to protect that. They want to grow that, and then they want to pass that on. So I do see that a whole lot more. I think people are very concerned about not being lost to a lawsuit. I mean, unfortunately, lawsuits are out there a lot, and people are worried that they might get in a car accident and injure someone, not intentionally, but unintentionally. And now it goes beyond their auto insurance, and now they're left with this lawsuit that they can go after any asset doesn't have asset protection in and of itself. And so that scares a lot of people, understandably. It should. So we just want to make sure that people are protected and in the best way we can.
Are business owners, are they also very concerned about asset protection?
Yes, I do find they're very concerned. A lot of their concerns are, am I functioning in a way that would protect my personal assets? And it really depends on what they've done on their planning. So if they have it in a corporate structure, it should be limited liability, which means there's kind of a force field around their business. So if something happens in the business, people can still go after those assets. But if something happens outside the business, they can't get to the assets in the business, and vice versa. So people that it happens in the business, they can't get to the personal can't get to the business. That's how business structures are supposed to be. But a lot of business owners are flying, solo, basically not with any protection. And they're in sole proprietorships. And so they haven't put that protection around them. There's people who think they have protection in a corporate structure, but they're not keeping up the corporate formalities. And then the courts then can go ahead and what we call pierce through the corporate veil, which means they can get through to those assets. So get through the corporate veil to get to the personal assets. If it's a business creditor, if it's a personal creditor, to pierce through the corporate veil to get to their business assets. So if I see that that's happening, the first thing I want to do is make sure their books are strong and get those up to date, so that we're protecting them even though they have a corporate structure. If they don't have a corporate structure, then we want to get one around their business to protect them so they're not getting to personal assets.
I would think that people in the medical field have some major concerns, especially with medical malpractice suits out there.
You're right. And there's a variety of professionals, whether it's doctors, nurses, dentists. I think you have a dentist next. So medical professionals of all sorts. Also attorneys, wealth advisors, other professional advisors, CPAs. They're all more subject to malpractice suits. And so because of that, even though a lot of them do have malpractice insurance, they want to do protection beyond that. So going beyond their malpractice insurance or any umbrella policies they may have on their other assets is going to be really important to protect them long term.
Julie, when a potential client comes in for the first time, what's their, I guess, the greatest misconception when it comes to estate planning? Because I've always said just because it's called estate planning doesn't mean you have to have an estate.
Right. And I think that's it. We hear estate planning, we think, oh, that's for the very wealthy. It's really
Right.
for all of us. If we have one asset, yeah, it's for you. But not only that, so you have none, you need some disability protection. And so estate planning encompasses not only what we do with our assets and how we pass them on, but how we protect it, how we give it to them, and disability protection. And that could include a variety of methods of having disability protection too.
You know, gosh, what's going on out there now with the economy? And I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican.
Right.
There really are reasons to be concerned now more than ever.
Yes, there are. And I think as we see people feeling more and more vulnerable, people want some sense of security, at least what they have is being protected. Now they can do investments within that might, or decisions within that protected trust that could affect the level of assets in there, but they wouldn't be subject to creditors anymore. And we can also provide divorce protection in that same kind of scenario, and tax planning. So that's great. We can combine a lot of things when we're looking at asset protection. So we're just constantly looking for ways that we can protect and amplify our life savings.
Well, I know we had a person who called like 5 minutes after the show was up, and we gave them your phone number and your email address. Very concerned. He has someone handling his estate planning, but he's hearing about so many changes out there.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to get a second opinion. So, and you do that.
Yes, we do.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I mean, just like if you were facing surgery, you would want to get a second opinion from another surgeon. We're happy to do that as well, and maybe give a different perspective on what you're doing, and, just read through the documents that they're thinking about, or just the plan that they had come up with, and just make sure it's a plan for you.
Tell me about some of the ways you can protect these risk assets.
All the assets that we have at risk. Yeah, because there's some that are exempt and some that what we call non-exempt assets. So exempt assets, let's talk about those first so we can kind of segregate, okay, what's at risk? So in Texas and in Florida, where you are, there's also pretty good homestead protection. I think we have the best in the nation.
Yes.
That we can protect the whole amount of our homestead from anyone except for mortgage lenders. If someone works on our home, they can do a mechanics lien on the home. And also for a homeowners association, if you're subject to a homeowners association, yes, they can go after your home if you don't pay to get your lawn taken care of or whatever, but it has really good protections other than that. I mean, there's other states that have virtually none or none. So we're very fortunate to have that. Our retirement accounts, they have different levels of protection, whether they're IRAs or 401ks, because they're subject to either federal laws or state laws. Here in Texas, they're both about the same, and they have really good protections around our retirement funds, but not from everybody, not from the IRS, not from child support, things like that. And then certain accounts out there have some protections, health savings accounts, educational accounts. There's certain annuities. And the state of Texas allows us, $50,000 of just personal property that we can cover, whether that's one vehicle and some clothes or whatever. Okay, for most people, they also have some other assets like an investment account or maybe another piece of real estate or a vacation home. Those don't have any protection. So those are the ones that we need to be really concerned about. So a lot of people maybe have a large amount in an investment or brokerage account. You have that second home, or maybe that lot out there that's just kind of could be a liability and you haven't built on it yet. So those are some things that we want to protect. And there's different ways that we can do that, whether it's in trust or repositioning assets or doing different things like that.
One of the things that I really wanted to ask you is, why did there's a lot of different areas of law. Why did you choose estate planning? Because what tells me when you do elder law and there's law to help protect those who can't protect themselves, shows me how much you really care about people.
I do. Yeah, I really do. And that's the whole reason I got into law. I love writing. I love the strategy. But I love people, and I wanted to make sure that I was helping people. And when I got into litigation, I started out in commercial litigation with a large law firm, and I realized I was getting more and more removed from the people I really wanted to help, and it was more in conflict kind of situations, and I wanted to avoid that for them. And so that's why I got involved in it. But really, it's just my heart to help people. It is a passion that I have. I see this as a ministry in a lot of ways of helping people and making sure that we're doing the best thing we can for them.
Julie, I hope I don't embarrass you. We've got about 80 something experts across the country. Some have been with me for as long as 10 years. And I rarely do this. But with attorney Julia Dean, I feel like, if this is an endorsement, this is an endorsement. If I lived in Houston, Texas, and there was absolutely, I'd want somebody out there to educate me on what's out there, that I'm not totally at risk. I wouldn't have to think twice about it. I would retain attorney Julia Dean. I don't do that very often. So I don't want you to think we do this with all our experts.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much to me.
Well, what you do when you get into, there's a lot of, people involved, family members involved, that think they should be part of, the monies when someone passes. You have a very tough job, and you got to, you've got a job to do that I don't think I would want to do. So what you do is pretty amazing, but how you do it, how you explain it, and the trust factor there, you get all the check marks. I had to say that.
Well, thank you so much, Steve. That means the world to me, because that's really what I want, is for people to know they can come to me, and that you can trust me, that I will be that person, that advisor that helps you the rest of your life, and that we're coming alongside you and to help you and your family. And I guess when I started in law, it was kind of the Rambo attorney kind of era of law, and you always felt like you had to be like really tough and mean, and that was just not me,
Yeah, who is that?
I know. It just, when people find out I'm a lawyer, it's like, you're a lawyer? And it's just because, I just have a different heart, and I realized that kind of law was not where I needed to be. I needed to be where people. And so it took me a long time. It took me about half my career to get there. But I realized that all of that background has helped me be better and more empathetic. I wanted to open a law firm that not only I could be myself, but my team could, really care for and listen to people, and that I could spend extra time with people and not worry about every single billable minute. And where they felt like they could come and just share their hearts. I know it's hard to talk about your family sometimes and your finances. So even just how we set up our law firm is to be more like a home. If you look at it, it looks like a big home, when you come to our office, and that it's very intentional because I want to be able to share at a deeper level, because the only way I can really help you is to know those things that I know are hard to open up on sometimes,
Julia, we have a few minutes left. We just got, and this might be a question for next show, but they want to know, can you explain the difference between a revocable and irrevocable trust,
Yes.
and when they're needed in estate planning?
Well, that's a big question, but the basics are a revocable trust, you can change at any time you have capacity. And an irrevocable trust, generally you can't change. Now, all my irrevocable trust, I do have some ways of making some changes without having to resort to the courts. But really, the beneficiaries are the same. We may be able to change out trustees. So you're making a decision. When we have an irrevocable trust, the nice thing about that is we can do some asset protection with irrevocable trust that we cannot do with a revocable trust. With an irrevocable trust, we can do some divorce protection, which we can't do with a revocable trust. And we can do tax planning with an irrevocable trust that we can't do with a revocable trust. So the irrevocable trust gives us a lot more benefits: tax planning, asset protection, legacy planning, divorce planning, protection for the future.
Probate.
Yes. And the big one is, we can avoid probate in both of those kinds of trusts as long as they're funded. Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously. And by funded, I mean the assets are inside that trust. And we help you do that because we realize when people were coming to us, they would come with a big notebook with a trust from another attorney, and either nothing would be in the trust or just their home. Because oftentimes most attorneys just do the deed to the house and give you instructions. I have a funding advisor or a coordinator who helps me with changing all this, because it's a full-time job. And so I look over all of that and make sure it's going in the proper direction. And he actually helps me with making sure all the forms are correct, getting it to the financial advisors, to the financial institutions, following up, and making sure those assets are where they're supposed to be. Because it's nice to have a great plan, but if part of our goal is to avoid probate, then we've got to make sure it's funded and working for us.
Well, your show goes by so fast. If you're watching us on TV right now, you can see we've been scrolling Attorney Julia Dean's phone number throughout the show. But if you're listening on radio, Julia, give everybody your phone number.
Well, it's 281-277-3326. And my website is juliadeanlaw.com, which is JuliaDeanLaw.com. And if you go there, there's a contact us form that you can send to us, or you can just call us and we'll get you set up with a consultation. And our goal is to answer almost every phone call we can personally, but if we can't get it right away, we will call you back as soon as possible.
And she will. Listen, thank you, Julia. Have a blessed weekend. I'm so glad that you're feeling better. And we'll see you again in a couple weeks.
Sounds great. All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
That was Attorney Julia Dean. Been with us for like 5 years, and people just love her. We're going to be going to our next portion of our show, an area that is so dear to my heart because I have sleep apnea. If you or a family member, especially a girlfriend or a husband or a wife, you do not want to miss today's show. And you know what I mean by that. Let me bring on our next guest, our next expert, Dr. John Van Sleet.
Hey, Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I love your show because I've got deep interest in sleep apnea. And I got to tell you, I am so glad that we have you, because I, as a host, I, as a person who has sleep apnea really understands what people go through.
Sure.
And it's not easy. And I am so glad because you got a great practice. You're a dentist here in Houston, and you also do sleep apnea, which means help for people who have it. Tell everybody about your practice.
Well, I've been in practice over 30 years. I have a practice out in kind of west of the Galleria area, and it's a general practice. I mean, we do everything that you can imagine that you would expect out of a general dentist, but I do a lot of other things like sleep apnea issues and TMJ issues, high-end cosmetic stuff. So we do a lot in our practice.
You know, I want people also to get the word out there because you also do TMJ.
Sure.
And very, very painful. And just, let people know there's a great local dentist out there that can help you with your TMJ.
Sure.
But today we're talking about sleep apnea. John, why do people snore?
Well, snoring is really a function of when we're breathing in and out when we're sleeping. And as we fall asleep, our muscle tension back in our throat starts to relax. And then if we have excess tissue in our throat, as we breathe in and out, it just reverberates on the excess tissue. And some of the things that can cause that, obviously, are going to be anything that hampers the airway, like a large tongue, could be enlarged adenoids or tonsils. But in general, anything that causes that airway to be closed off is what will cause somebody to snore. Allergies play a big part in this as well, because if you think about it, when we breathe, the proper breathing should be with our lips closed, and we should have our tongue in the roof of our mouth, and we should breathe through our nose. So if you have allergies or asthma, anything that causes us not to be able to breathe through our nose, that means we got to breathe through our mouth, which can even cause more snoring and apnea issues.
So are you telling me that some people have a larger tongue?
Yes.
And also that's one of the reasons they snore. How do can you look at someone's tongue and tell if it's too large for their mouth or if it's blocking anything?
Well, sure you can. Just imagine this. As a dentist, we see people routinely, and people will come to our practice and we'll look in their mouth. And so if somebody does have a large tongue, it usually equates to a gag reflex of some sort. They tend to be more of a gagger. But yeah, it's very simple. It's harder to work on teeth when somebody has a large tongue. So we're there seeing it all the time. So the next obvious question is, do you snore? And then we can go into the whole apnea spiel after that. So dentists are often the first people that'll ever talk about sleep apnea to patients.
So, there's so many people out there who snore very loudly. It's probably hurt their relationship with their wife or husband. Absolutely. So if you're snoring, do you have sleep apnea?
That is a great question, Steve, and a big misconception for a lot of people, because you can snore and not have sleep apnea. And even weirder, you can have sleep apnea and not snore. Although snoring is a huge indicator of the potential to have sleep apnea. But sleep apnea just in general is really, it's a serious sleep breathing disorder because what it really is that we constantly start and stop breathing at night when we're sleeping. And when that happens, of course, we're not bringing in oxygen. So oxygen doesn't get into our bloodstream, and therefore the organs inside of our body just don't get oxygenated. And that can be a really serious issue. And you mentioned spouses. It's really funny because a lot of times a person who has apnea doesn't realize they do it. And it's usually a spouse that says, they hear you gasping and choking through the night and says, my gosh, you're really having trouble breathing. And that's usual to have a spouse say something to me about it.
And it's dangerous too, John.
Oh my gosh. I want to tell you, sleep apnea is very, very serious. And the obvious part about this is that, man, you can die from it, Steve. I mean,
yes.
we know now with our sleep centers and what we've learned about sleep apnea over the last 10, 15 years is that there's a lot of studies out there showing that it really was somebody with an uncontrolled apnea issue, 12 to 15 years off of the average lifespan. So that's really, really significant. And, I just want to let people know, I mean, what apnea is, it's when you go 10 seconds without breathing. That's called an apnea episode. Okay. A hypopnea, in contrast, is when you stop breathing, but you go less than 10 seconds. So when we're on a sleep study, we look at a number called the AHI number. That's apnea hypopnea index. And how we determine how bad an apnea problem somebody has is that if they have less than 5, we consider that could be normal. But 5 to 15 could be a mild case. 15 to 30 apnea episodes is kind of a moderate case. And then over 30, that's considered a severe apnea issue where somebody's just not breathing.
Well, so does the snore kind of kick you and tell you to start breathing again?
Well, here's what happens. When we stop breathing, the brain does send a signal and it says, wake up and start breathing, okay? And we all know how vital just a good night's sleep is to our just general health and well-being. Think about it. We got to get into what we call REM sleep. That's the rapid eye movement sleep in our sleep cycle. That is when hormones are released. That is when cellular rejuvenation takes place and healing takes place. So if we're not getting into that sleep, it's not good. But just to let you know how with apnea, it's Steve, it's just something you really, if you're stopping breathing during the night, and this is something that we know is happening, it's really important you get it checked out.
What if a person doesn't treat it? What could happen to them?
Okay, well, just like we just said, man, if you don't get it treated, I'll just put it to you this way. When you're not taking in oxygen, I would say that the heart itself is really taxed. We see an exponential increase in strokes, heart attacks, cardiomyopathy, even type 2 diabetes, and people's numbers go through the roof sometimes just on uncontrolled apnea. So it significantly affects a lot of our body system for sure.
So, and this is, I got to tell you, everything that Dr. Van Slate's telling you, I know for a fact is true. And it's such a pleasure having you on the show. How do you, in your practice, treat sleep apnea?
Well, this is what I would say is that the first thing we have to start with is a sleep study. Okay.
Yes.
Everybody has to, and I'm sure you probably had one, Steve,
Yes.
Okay. So we always start with a sleep study, and that usually involves going to a sleep center, where you spend the night, and then they do a really thorough diagnosis on your sleep patterns. One difference that I really am loving, though, as a dentist, is that now we can do at-home sleep studies. I don't know if you ever had that.
Oh,
Steve,
no, I've had to go overnight.
Yes. So now there's these sleep screeners that we can do where you go home, and in our particular case, you wear it 2 nights. And it's a very simple device that you wear, and then you send it back to the company that sends it to you, and then the sleep physician actually looks at it and diagnoses you, and that's how we determine, what kind of treatment somebody needs. But if, let's say, the sleep apnea, if the test comes back and somebody has severe apnea, well, most likely they're going to need a CPAP machine. That's the continuous positive air pressure, where actual oxygen.
Which is what I'm on.
That's what you're on. Okay, so you're very familiar with that. So that's what we do for somebody that's probably on a more mild to severe case. If somebody is more moderate to mild, in other words, their apneas are lower, then we can make dental appliances or snore appliances all day long to help them with their apnea and snoring. And we do this routinely in our practice. And another person we do a lot for is, some people are just CPAP intolerant, Steve, that don't want to wear a CPAP or don't like it. And so we can make these appliances for those people as well.
I got to tell you, I think the appliance that you make is got to be so much more comfortable than that mask, John. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You do stop snoring, but oh God, it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's funny, Steve. I will tell you this with the dental appliances, what I can tell you is that they've come a long way. I've been treating sleep apnea stuff for over 20 years now. And how the appliances started compared to where they have evolved to this product, I love where we are now. Matter of fact, I'm holding one right here if you want to look at it.
Yes.
The sleep appliance now, it's basically two pieces where they basically Let me get my headphone here.
What are those made out of, John?
This is basically a milled acrylic. It's hard and durable. And matter of fact, when you talk about a sleep appliance, some of the things that they have to do, they have to be strong, they have to be durable, because you have to wear these for years sometimes.
Right.
So
there's people who grind.
Oh yeah, they have to be comfortable. And so what I can tell you the difference between these appliances and what you can often typically buy in a store is that the store ones don't do those things. They're not strong. They're not durable. They don't hold your jaw in the proper position a lot of times. And they just really aren't good for long-term use. And this is kind of why we've evolved into the kind that we have. I love this one also because it has a little thermoplastic aspect to it where it's got a little give, Steve. So you can run it under warm water, and it's easier to fit to and mold to the teeth than they've ever been. And so I really love that feature. It doesn't encumber the tongue. So, remember we were talking about enlarged tongues. A lot of times these appliances, you can put them in, and instead of pushing the tongue back into the airway, they allow the tongue room to kind of move around. So there's a lot of huge advantages with these appliances that I just love now.
So what do you like better, the machine or the appliance?
Personally, I would say this: it is a personal. It's really up to the person. What I do, I make appliances. I don't do the CPAP machines. That would be with a sleep physician. So if I work with sleep physicians, of course, that if I have somebody that's really an uncontrolled type of apnea, severe, then a CPAP is really where they need to be. And even for CPAP patients, we still make a lot of these appliances so that they can wear them maybe if they're traveling, if there are places where they can't have a CPAP machine, or just as an adjunct to it, then we can also make these appliances to help people. But I wouldn't say, there's very specific reasons for the snore appliance. Like let's say if you're just a snorer and your spouse is not loving the fact you snore, then a snore appliance is obviously for you. You wouldn't need a CPAP machine. But if somebody has mild to moderate apnea and they have snoring issues, man, snore appliances all day long, we're making them like crazy. So it's a really good one.
I just got a text from a listener, really enjoying the show. You've got a great expert on. This got to be your cousin, John. But no, no, they want to know what these things that are advertised you put on your nose, and do those really work?
Breathe Right strips, yes.
Yeah.
The simple question is, all right, it's not going to solve your apnea issue or your snoring issue, okay? But the idea is it will open up the turbinates. That's what it's for. And so, when we talk especially about allergies, these people, what they do is if somebody has a lot of allergies and they have enlarged turbinates or sinus problems, they have deviated septums. Well, a lot of times what they'll do is they can use this Breathe Right strip that'll sort of open up the turbinates and allow them to breathe better. And so they don't become mouth breathers or breathe through their mouth. And they're able to breathe through the nose better. So it does help, but it's not going to, if you have an apnea issue, it's really like putting a Band-Aid on the problem.
Well, I know that for me, I had high blood pressure, which caused the sleep apnea. What are some of the other things that cause sleep apnea?
Well, sleep apnea, basically, I would say that
I know overweight's one.
Overweight is a big deal. Anybody who carries a lot of weight in the throat area and has a lot of excess tissue, that's probably the biggest thing that we see. I guess another good way to think about this is when you talk about symptoms of sleep apnea, another big one that we see is excessive daytime sleepiness for an apnea patient. I don't know if you experience that or not, Steve, but you can imagine if you're taxed all the time with just your ability to breathe, you just never get a good night's sleep. You're going to be irritable and tired, and you're going to lose focus and concentration. This is all part that the apnea people play with. They tend to have more stress and anxiety than the average person do as a result of that. But what causes it? Mainly, when you think about it, if somebody has a reflux issue, if somebody is asthmatic, if somebody has allergies, these are all red flags, okay? If somebody, and I can go further, if you are somebody that has a really big snoring issue or an apnea issue, even on a mild case, and you've already had a history of stroke, or if you already had a history of heart disease or diabetes 2, Parkinson's disease, anything like that, man, you really, really, really need to be highly considering getting a CPAP or a dental sleep appliance to make sure that you're getting proper oxygen. It's that serious.
John, I had some health conditions that I was hospitalized this last week for, and it was breathing, and I had swelling, and I actually thought it was from, because I've had COVID 3 times. So I thought it was something that had to do with COVID. You know, the first question they asked me was, do you have sleep apnea?
Absolutely.
Now, it wasn't diabetes, you know, it wasn't high blood pressure. It was, do you have sleep apnea? And I was shocked, because that again shows how serious this is.
You know what, Steve, I'm seeing when I talk to some of my physician friends, it is amazing how even on their normal health histories, they want to know now if somebody has sleep apnea. We know that because they understand now that if a person has low blood oxygen saturation, it can affect healing. It can affect surgeries. It can affect post-op issues. So it's becoming way more prevalent for physicians to want to know this. But that doesn't surprise me at all, Steve. And I hate that you had the health issues.
Yeah. But you know, I think what I'm trying to get across to our viewers and listeners is how serious this is. Because when you say sleep apnea or snoring, it's like, yeah, no big deal. But I mean, a lot of people just don't understand what it is and how you stop breathing and what it can cause. And it's very serious. So if sounds like I'm trying to scare people, yeah, I am. You need to get in and take care of this. And listen, I almost lost a relationship over it. So I just want people to know we do understand what you're going through. And it seems like people are still kind of embarrassed, John.
Sure.
You know, like, hey, I heard you snoring. No, I wasn't snoring. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
But it's nothing to be embarrassed about. And what's even worse is there's something you can do about it. Not to do anything is even worse.
Yeah. Well, you know, as we all know, I mean, there's always a stigma to snoring. Nobody likes to be told they snore, or they don't want people to know that they snore. I mean, there's a stigma, but really it's not something we should be embarrassed about. And it's certainly not being embarrassed to talk to a doctor or a dentist about that. But it's so funny, Steve, on our health questionnaire, I can have people come in and they'll check the box that they don't snore. And then when I get to talking with them and looking at them, they'll say, I do snore, you know, I mean, because people it's just like anything else. People just really are, there's a stigma about it, but there really shouldn't be, because I think the big takeaway is that it is serious. It's amazing. And you probably experienced this, Steve, when you started that CPAP machine and you started taking an oxygen and felt better. I bet you were less tired. Yeah. I bet you felt better.
Yes.
Probably better than you had in years. And that's the thing, that you're not only potentially adding years to your life, but you're going to feel better while you're adding those years to your life. You know, it's really about feeling better, being able to experience life better and more fully, enjoy what you're eating more. There's just so much to this, way more than just being okay with snoring.
Do you do much with telemedicine, John, when it comes to sleep apnea?
You know, I did a little bit during the COVID stuff, obviously, because we were having to. But as far as just a platform where I'm doing a lot of telemedicine with it, I have not done a whole lot of that. But I've certainly talked to a lot of people on phones. I get a lot of phone calls where people just want to talk about it and to decide, you know, do I want to come in or not? They just want to know that they can be helped. But sure, I mean, I'd be open to any of that.
Yeah, because the reason why is we got phone calls, and I got one from Huntsville, wanting to know exactly where you were located at.
Sure.
And I just think that as someone who is as good as you are when it comes to either sleep apnea, cosmetic dentistry, general dentistry, that, you know what, if you have to travel a little bit further, at least you know you're getting someone who's really good at what they do.
Well, man, I appreciate that, Steve. You know, we practicing in Houston's kind of a great thing because we got so many people here. I got a large audience to work on. You know, there's no doubt. But man, we have people that do travel from long distances to come in and see us. So we're blessed, and you We're just happy to help anybody that we can. And honestly, if it's something, if I talk to somebody and I know that traveling is a big issue, man, I'm going to work like crazy to find somebody that I trust that I could give them some help on that also. So it works all different ways, but we're happy to help anybody who comes in our door for sure.
John, you're too good, bro. You're too good. We have a couple minutes left. John, if I had, which I do, I have sleep apnea.
Yeah.
Why should I come see you?
Well, I think the main thing, Steve, is that, we do a lot of this. And so we've used many appliances. We've kind of been through the trial and errors of this, and we've been doing it a long time. And as well as I do, we see a lot. We know what to expect a lot. There's just like anything else, there's learning curves to all this stuff. And so I just like doing this because I feel like I'm helping people. But we've been doing it a long time, and I believe fully in the appliances that we're using now. I think that these are the best ones on the market. It's what I would recommend to anybody at any time, and we've kind of done all the other ones through trial and error. So it's more about just doing this for a long time and knowing that we've had a lot of track record of helping people.
Yeah, I want to tell people, because I've been doing this for 10 years now in 8 cities and all types of doctors and lawyers. This is a Friday afternoon, and what's so cool about it is, John, and I got to tell you, dentists never have to worry about not being busy. I got to tell you, to take 30 minutes out of your time to educate people is a blessing, John. We're so lucky to have you.
Oh, come on, Steve. I'm more than happy to do this, man.
Next
and I
to
like
the mail,
you too.
bro.
I like you too to boot. I get it. All sides are good.
But I know you're so busy, and especially on Friday, people want to get their teeth taken care of before the weekend. But we really appreciate you, your practice, and we will see you again next week. Give everybody your phone number.
Okay, the phone number, 281-886-3164.
And you've got to have a great website. I know that.
drvanslate.com.
Thank you, bro.
Okay.
We'll see you
Steve.
next month. Have a
All
good
right,
weekend.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
That was Dr. John Van Slate. He's one of the finest dentists in the city of Houston, and we love him. He'll be back with us again next month. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. I know you got a lot of things going on in life, and we're here to educate you. And we don't ever want this to sound like a info commercial. This is to educate you so you can make an educated decision. Hey, we'll see you again next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.